Welcome to the European Football Show live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Patrick Mullen, joined once again with Blair Malloy, my co-host, as we react to another special week of Champions League football. We're going to spice it up this week though, Blair. I'm not just going to ask you about the week on a whole. I want to know, what was your favourite game?
My favourite game this week, Patrick, I think I'm going to go with Liverpool 4 by a Leverkusen 0. We all seen it. It was billed as Xabi Alonso coming back to Anfield after such an incredible season last year with Bayer Leverkusen, that incredible unbeaten run in the league, and then making it all the way to the final of the Europa League where they unfortunately lost out to Atalanta. He was making his comeback back to Merseyside and it went horribly, horribly wrong for Xabi Alonso. But every credit to Liverpool. I thought they were absolutely scintillating. A stunning performance from Luis Diaz. I want to talk about this first goal. Curtis Jones, the ball he puts through for Luis Diaz to just lift the ball over the keeper, that just set them on their way. It was a fantastic, fantastic performance.
It wasn't quite the return that I think you would have been hoping for. Such a good season last year for Leverkusen. They're not even that bad this season. You know, that's only their third defeat so far since that Europa League final defeat. It just didn't quite work for them, and I think we have to speak about it. The tactics of Arne Slot, he got them spot on.
Yeah, I think Arne Slot, after the game, talking about how he deployed Luis Diaz in a way that maybe some people didn't see coming.
I think Tahu's a real good defender and is one of the best defenders in Germany, maybe the best defender in Germany, and he likes to play more against the target man, someone who's there in the middle. And we chose to play Lucio more from the left or to the midfield, and then maybe surprise him afterwards with runs in behind, not only him but in general. And if you look at the first goal, that paid out. But what a pass from Curtis Jones.
What a pass indeed, Patrick. And I think it's really interesting what Arne Slot is saying there. He recognised that Jonathan Tah, who was such a defensive stalwart for Bayer Leverkusen last year, he likes to play against a front man. He likes the battle, and that's what Darwin Núñez would have gave him. Darwin Núñez had started the other night. He would have been up there trying to rough up the centre halves, and he might not get much joy out of it. But playing Luis Diaz as that almost false nine, playing with Cody Gakpo, playing with Mohamed Salah, guys, it's a liquid front three. They move all the way in and out, and Luis Diaz making those late runs just in between the pockets of that back three, it came to such fruition.
It just shows you kind of the importance of the analysis and the tactical analysis by managers. And I know it's a bit of a tangent, but I spoke to Neil Critchley, Hearts manager, a few weeks ago, and he went into great detail about the analysis. And he said, if you're looking at an opposition, especially in Europe, you might be going back 5, 6, 7 games of their last game to find an opposition who plays similarly to you, so then you could find the breakdown. And that's clearly what Arne Slot's done. He's seen what Luis Diaz could do against this defence, and it's paid off incredibly. A little stat for you, no German team has ever won at Anfield in Europe.
Right? Wow, that's incredible.
No
When you think about the quality of German opposition that's came to these shows in the past, that's unbelievable. I think, just touching on Arne Slot there, it's very Ancelotti school of management. I mean, how many times it's something that's been spoken about in the press verbatim in the last few weeks about managers not wanting to change their styles, about having a system, and that's it, they don't want to change it. Arne Slot is proving that his system is to win. His system is to find whatever way works for the players he has at his disposal, he will win. And he's getting fantastic results so far this season.
It's going well. Top of the Champions League table, 12 points, 10 goals, and only 1 conceded. And if I was going to talk about my favourite game this week, we have to go from first in the league to second. Yep. Sporting Lisbon 4, Manchester City 1.
Not the second place we were thinking about that, Patrick. Yeah, Sporting Lisbon. Yeah.
Manchester City, what happened there? But Ruben Amorim, he said before the game, if he wins, they'll be thinking of him as the new Sir Alex Ferguson. I think they might be now. Optimism must be high.
A little bit early. A little bit early to be calling him the new Sir Alex Ferguson, but a quite incredible performance. I was watching this game, and the speed with which Sporting played against Manchester City. Phil Foden obviously scores for Man City, and you think, okay, they're maybe just going to dominate this game the way Man City often do. They keep the ball, they keep possession, and they can suffocate teams the way we've seen them. But Manchester City, on this little run they're on right now, they're maybe struggling a little bit. Sporting Lisbon absolutely capitalised on this. Every single time they lost the ball, they were on them in a flash, and they killed them time and time again.
It was two of the hottest strikers in world football at the moment up against each other. Erling Haaland obviously missing that penalty up against, you could say a new star, but he's been absolutely banging the goals in recent time. Gyökeres, we've got to speak about him. That hat-trick, scintillating performance once again.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about him as a new Haaland. He's obviously been on the scene for a little while. I know you want to talk about his backstory a little bit, but something that reminded me of Haaland, the way he was playing, was just how hard and how direct he ran and he struck the ball. Like when he hit those penalties, it was like a bullet. It was so meaningful. And he's a player that's really came to the fore in the last couple of years with his performances over in Portugal, with performances with Sweden as well. I know he's developing quite the partnership with Alexander Isak of Newcastle up front for Sweden. So I definitely think that he, alongside Ruben and Amorim, he's going to be one to watch as it coming in next year or so.
Well, there is talk this summer, potentially a gentleman's agreement with the club that £63 million might be enough to take him away. But something the viewers might not know, just a few years ago he was playing his football for Brighton. They then sold him for £1 million to Coventry City. It's the sporting director of Brighton at the time, Dan Ashworth, the current Manchester United sporting director. He'll obviously be joining up with Ruben Amorim. £1 million in 2021. He was then sold for £20 million from Coventry to Sporting, and now talks of £60-70 million for the striker. Not bad going, and I do hear Coventry, they do have a sell-on clause.
I wonder if it's a little bit of an ego thing if Dan Ashworth will sign him back again at Manchester United. Do you think Ruben Amorim going to Old Trafford, the first person I'm bringing with me is Gyökeres, because he is exactly what Manchester United need. I know Højlund maybe had a little bit of a tough time of it. His numbers are quite good despite his performances, but Gyökeres is one of those players you think would settle in straight away at Manchester United. But if we go to the other half of Manchester City are not having a good time of it right now.
They're struggling, and I can't seem to kind of put my finger on it. Obviously that defeat in the league followed up by this now. I think we're all pretty confident, given this this kind of format of the league, that they will get out, and a manager like Pep Guardiola, but even he isn't quite too happy with it.
Yeah, but I think he did say after the game the other week that they're not in maybe as bad a place as some people are thinking.
We're not in the dark side. We played really bad against Bournemouth. We played really good today. The only regret, you can concede the third or fourth. You have to, it's not necessary, the penalties. I would say, we cannot start the second half scoring a goal. Yeah, it can happen. They do the good action, can happen, but 44 minutes or 47 minutes left. And emotionally, we were in that position stable. I think we make a really good first half against a top team. We were close to score the second, the third, and emotion is difficult when we play the first half that we played, and after 2 minutes, second half, we are losing 3-1.
I think that quick fire 2 goals after the break, it really done for Manchester City. And I don't want to be speaking too early, but they look tired. They look like a team who has really been through the ringer in the last couple of years. I mean, they lost against Tottenham in the Cup during the week. They lost against Bournemouth in the league last weekend, losing again, and not just losing, but really taking a battering over in Portugal during the week. It looks as though they've been playing under Pep Guardiola for a good amount of years. The intensity that they must play at. You look at these players, Kevin De Bruyne, all these guys are getting on a little bit now. I think maybe it's time for a bit of a rejuvenation at Manchester City.
I mean, as Erik ten Hag famously said, eras come to an end. These players who have been the forwards, the stars for Man City, they're going to have to move on, and they're going to have to go through another recruitment cycle. We thought it was going to happen with Liverpool this season, that this was going to be the year they needed to change it up. Slot, did he make one signing in the summer?
Yeah.
And he's managed to get this out of their players. I'm not going to worry too much. I know Man City, the quality they have, they'll be backfiring very soon, but it's that old debate that we're having recently. Are these players playing too much? Is this new schedule? You know, I mean, it's all these kind of things you've got to think about. And I'm sure Pep Guardiola will sort them out very soon.
Yeah. But I think just, again, testament to how good a job Arne Slot's doing. That he's came in, this Liverpool team maybe faltering a little bit at the back end of last season. He's come in and got them absolutely flying again. As has, for the most part, Unai Emery, who has been excellent for Aston Villa this week, but he was undone by what can only be described as an absolute howler by Tyrone Mings.
It's quite comical. I think if you're an Aston Villa fan,
it's more than quite comical. I think it's hilarious to watch.
As a neutral, we were quite enjoying watching this morning. Unai Emery, I think, if I was to describe it, I'd call it incredible.
Yeah.
Let's just read what he had to say. about this one. His mistake is completely strange. It's the biggest mistake I witnessed in my career. We have to forget quickly, this mistake is not going to repeat again. I think never in my life. I've never seen anything like it.
I think unequivocal was the term used in those words, that he never wants to see that again. But I'm sure everyone has seen it by now. But Martinez, he passes the ball out to Tyrone Mings, and if you're looking at it objectively, you think he's taking the goal kick. Tyrone Mings picks the ball up and then places it back down as if Martinez is going to take it again. And I'm not sure why he would think about taking it again, but as soon as the referee sees it, he blows and then he points to the spot. Straight away, he's just seen, he's picked the ball up. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but that's what he's done. And as it unfolds, you can see Emiliano Martinez, he's just looking like, what is going on? He's looking at Tyrone Mings, he's starting to pull his shirt over his head. He's like, oh no, I've made an absolute mess of this.
It gets even worse for Tyrone Mings. Champions League debut for the guy. He's been out injured for a while. He finally gets his night in Stardom, Champions League. The music's playing. You got to think the night before, he's so excited, just trying to get himself into bed. Tomorrow I'm going to play in the Champions League. Now,
And then that happens.
that's all your debut gets remembered
And
by.
I really like Tyrone Mings. I think he's a really, really good defender. I think he's a great part of that Aston Villa team. But as I say, these things can sometimes happen. There's such an anomaly in football, and they just stand out so much because it's just a ridiculous moment. But from the ridiculous to the sublime, some people who have impressed me this week in the Champions League as standout performers, I'd like to mention a couple of guys who, formerly of these shores, now plying their trade on the biggest stage. One, Malik Tillman, who Rangers fans will remember had that stint at Ibrox last season. He is turning out for PSV Eindhoven these days and put in an incredible performance in the week he scored for PSV, as well as a young Scottish player who's out there in Austria playing for Sturm Graz, one Max Johnston. He played an hour this week at the Signal Iduna Park as Sturm Graz. They took on Borussia Dortmund. They were so close, Patrick, so close to getting a point up until the 85th minute when Donyell Malen scored, and I felt so bad for them. I thought, these guys have put in such a great performance. Can they go there? Can they pick up a point? And really, really unfortunate.
We're deep into the Champions League now. There's been some quality. One player this week who I've got to mention, Nicholas Kuhn. Watching that game during the week, he was just, that first goal he scored, just that kind of dinky into the far post, in off the back, really setting kind of Celtic part alight, and they kind of felt confident they'd get a result. We'll talk more about that Celtic result because it was a really impressive one. But we are obviously now deep into the competition, and I want to talk about these OPTA stats. Now, if you haven't seen it, it's a supercomputer that runs every outcome hundreds of thousands of times, and now they've predicted who is most likely to get out of the Champions League. Let's take a look at it now. It's just up there. So, Liverpool, they're top of the table. They have a 100% chance of qualifying in the top 24. Man City, Arsenal following up, Aston Villa, good showing so far for the English teams. Down there at the bottom, though, Celtic, 92.48% chance of going through. Blair, I've been impressed with them.
Yeah, I think when you look at that, I think it shows you how well the British sides are doing this year. I think Celtic being up there with 92.4% or whatever it was, I think that shows you how incredible their start has been to this competition. I think the other night was really a step forward. We've obviously spoke about it on PLZ Soccer all week, about how good the performance was from Brendan Rodgers' side. And I think they must really back themselves, certainly now, to be in that top 24. If not, is top 8 above them? I don't know. I don't think so.
I think the fans would be absolutely biting your hand off if they could get that. But there are some big teams down the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
This new format not really working for them. PSG, 25th, only on 4 points so far. Atletico Madrid, 23rd with 6. And you look at the top 4 of the tournament, I said it to you before, I don't think anyone was really expecting that.
No.
If you had told me a few years ago that this was a Europa League draw, I don't think you would have joked. Liverpool, Sporting, Monaco and Brest.
Yeah, four teams you would never imagine to be at the very pinnacle of the Champions League ready to go through to the next stages. But I must admit, I'm a fan of the new stage. I like it so far. I was very sceptical when it first came in. I thought, I don't know about this. I like the old-fashioned way. I wasn't sure, but I was out the other evening watching some of the games of football. I met up with a couple of friends, and I was like, who's playing? I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know. There was so many games on, and there was like 3 or 4 TVs, and there was just great games of football all over the place. And I often thought that maybe the group stage was the way forward, but I must admit, in terms of every game mattering, and don't get me wrong, we may get to the end of the season and players will be tired and players will be running out of steam because these games are all such high intensity. But for now, it makes for excellent viewing.
It is really good to watch. There was a few criticism. I know it was Arsenal fans kind of went viral this week, not liking it. They lost it into Milan away. They want them back at the Emirates. But for me, that's great when it's the top game. You know, your big kind of first seed versus second. But I don't see a benefit of playing the fourth team who haven't won a game twice. I like to see Arsenal take on Real Madrid or Barcelona, whoever it is, once, and it's all down to that game. It's like a final every time. I think they'll keep it for a few seasons, give it a chance, as long as the players their workload isn't too much increased. Moving on though, I know we talk about the Champions League a lot in this one. However, we have to mention the Conference League this week. Some great games, but one story in particular is the Hearts versus Heidenheim game.
And this is your favourite team this week, and I'm not talking about Hearts.
I saw a tweet. It was a Twitter thread, I'd say about a month ago, about Heidenheim. And I read it, and I was absolutely amazed by the story. And I just thought, when they come and play Hearts, I've got to mention it. They won 2-0. They are currently unbeaten in their opening 4 games. And their story and their rise to European success is quite special. This is a club, obviously they have long ties in the past, but they were recreated in 2007. In September of that year, Frank Schmidt, their manager, was hired. He is still their manager today. In 2009, they were playing amateur football before being promoted to Liga 3, which is the bottom division of professional football in Germany. They spent 7 years in that division before finally getting promoted to Bundesliga 2 in 2024. Then in 2023, they were promoted up to the Bundesliga. And then now, in their first season, they finished in the top 8 of the competition, booking their place in Europe. You might be thinking, oh, well, they probably just got a big load of money. They've signed these great players. No. There are players who were with them in Bundesliga 2 in amateur football who are still with them today, playing in the Bundesliga, playing in the top flight for the very first time. And they're just showing what a team, what a manager, a family feel of a local football team can go on and do. It is incredible, and I do wish them all the best.
It's a brilliant story, Patrick. To see guys who have been playing the best part of amateur football all the way up to playing in Europe, strutting their stuff around the continent, it's absolutely incredible. And a word for the Heidenheim fans last night at Tynecastle. I believe there's 50,000 people in the town that they're from, a really small populated place. To bring that support last night and the culture all run about it, and they sang for 90 minutes, they bounced for 90 minutes. It was a great sight to see, and it just shows you everything you need to know, I think, about German football culture, and especially a team like that who can bring that across these shores and really sometimes show up away supports from other parts of the world. I thought it was really special to see.
I do hope I don't think they'll go all the way. There's some really strong teams. Chelsea last night, 8-0 against FC Noah. Their admin putting out a tweet. What were you expecting? You have a budget 400 times more than us.
Sometimes you have to just laugh. Sometimes you have to see the funny side of football and just enjoy it.
You've got to take the funny side, but you've also got to look at these players. These players are playing for Heidenheim in amateur football. They're now getting to play at Hearts and other huge stadiums. Noah getting to go to Stamford Bridge. Let's not take away that magic.
It's a dream come true.
Give them a chance. Let them play in these competitions. And let's see what happens later down the line.
Yeah, perfect.
That's all we've got time for. Sadly, Blair, we're getting cut off. We've got to go back to the day job. But this has been incredibly fun. To myself and Blair Majoy, thank you so much for joining us here on the European Football Show. We'll be back very soon.